Hey, third grade. Today we're going to be focusing on our learning target 3RN 4.2. This is the target where we compare and contrast the most important points and details presented in two texts on the same topic. We are going to be comparing two texts, well, really one text and two videos about the culture of two different groups of people. So we're going to talk about what is the same between them, compare them, and what is different about them, contrast them.
Okay, so today, boys and girls, we're going to look at two cultures. We're going to find similarities, how are they the same, and differences when we contrast.
Remember, when we compare and we contrast, we talk about things that are the same and things that are different. On this picture right here, in the middle, I write whatever's the same. Remember, what's where the two parts overlap. It's what is the same, so we only need to write it one time because it works for both sides. We list the differences in the other spaces on the outside where we have listed and are right next to what we are talking about. So remember, the same goes in the middle and you write it one time. Differences go on the outside and you have to write two different things because they are not the same. If you need another refresher about comparing and contrasting, you can always watch the video on vocabulary.
Okay, so Miss Sharp is sharing a really important point. Most of the time, third graders are really good at finding ways two things are the same and writing it in the middle. But where we get stuck sometimes is when we're writing differences on the outside. If you look at this example, and if we are comparing these two unicorns, we need to write that this one has darker gray hair on the left, and then we need to contrast it with something about this unicorn. This unicorn has beige hair or a lighter color hair. When you give a detail, you need to contrast it with another detail that's different. Now we're going to remind ourselves, what is culture? Culture is the beliefs, art, customs, food, language, and ideas that belong to a group of people. We're going to review this by watching a video.
Today you'll be looking at the culture of two different groups of people. Remember, culture is the beliefs, art, customs, food, etc. of a group or society. The traditions and foods I eat are important parts of my culture. That also includes the clothes that people wear. Parts of culture can be visible, you can see them, or they can be invisible. You can't see them, but you know that they are there. Look at this picture. Do any of these cultures look familiar to you? They might not, but they are all pieces of different types of culture. If you need a refresher video on what culture is, you may watch the vocabulary video on culture.
All right, boys and girls, we are not going to watch the vocabulary together, but if you want to watch it later when it's your time to work on the task, you may do that. Don't forget that students can see all of the teaching sides just like the teacher can. Today we're going to work with our text from yesterday on Scholastic News.
today you will be going back to the same article about the Plymouth story and going back and revisiting the culture and the struggles of the Pilgrims who settled and the Wampanoag tribe who were where the Pilgrims began to settle. You will be using the article to talk about the struggles that both groups faced, as well as the videos to determine the culture that they had and if there are any similarities or differences.
Okay, so let's look right here. And let's just take a minute to look at this painting, illustration of the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. I want you to put in your brain one way that these two groups of people are the same. Look at the picture. Find one way these two people groups are the same. Okay, I want third graders to practice pushing the raise hand button to share out one way that you see these two cultures, these two people groups are the same. What do you notice from the illustration? Thank you if you are sitting up and focused on the lesson. Thank you if you have raised your hand, waiting for your turn to speak. Day, go ahead.
They both are people that come from different lands.
Thank you, Day. Who else can find a way that these two people are similar? What do they have in common in this illustration? Gloria.
They're both wearing clothes.
Thank you, Gloria. Landon.
They both are thankful for people.
Thank you, Landon. Angela. Angela, you have to push your microphone.
They have these two people both have hats on.
Thank you for that similarity. Anyone else want to share a way these two cultures are similar? What do you see in the picture? Theo, go ahead.
There's turkey.
Thank you for sharing, Theo. Okay, now I want you to think about ways to contrast these two groups of people. Think about contrast, things you notice that are different. Who can identify one way that you see in the illustration that these two cultures are different? Thank you if you are sitting up and focused on our lesson. Ashley, make sure that you are focused on learning. Angela, go ahead.
I see that this guy has hair and this girl is having hat on and he does it.
Thank you for sharing. Remember, clothing is one part of our culture. What other ways can you see that these two people groups, these two cultures are different? Day, go ahead.
They're both from different lands.
Thank you for sharing that using your background knowledge, Day. Gloria, your turn.
They both make the same houses.
Okay, remember right now, Gloria, we're thinking about ways to contrast, ways that these groups and cultures are different. Can you think of a way they're different, Gloria, just by looking at the illustration?
Their hairstyles are different.
That's something we talked about earlier, wasn't it? Sometimes in culture, the way we wear our hair is different than another culture. Landon, go ahead.
They both speak different languages.
Oh, Landon remembers that language is a part of culture. We know that the Pilgrims spoke a different language than Native American tribes. Thank you for sharing. Great job, boys and girls. Today you're going to do this skill. You're going to think about the culture of Native Americans and the Pilgrims. And you're going to think about how were their cultures similar? What did they wear? What did they eat? What language did they speak? What ideas did they believe? And then you're going to find details that describe how their cultures are different. We just did a practice using just a picture. Today you get to look at the text from yesterday and find details that help you find ways they're the same and ways they are different.